But does that mean that this Pope is not as conservative, or is he as conservative as, say, Pope Benedict?
Well,
I know
sometimes it's kind of difficult to kind of label a person
right,
conservative or progressive. Or what I can say is that uh, maybe in terms of consistency
right.
of his own teaching and of his own viewpoint, what I can say is that he has been very consistent in terms of proclaiming the gospel values
Correct.
and the teachings of the church. So in a way, we have a pope who is very concerned in terms of the identity of a Catholic today. And in a fast-changing world, you know, identity is very important because without a clear identity, you can get lost.
Right.
With so many questions, with so many changes, and with fast-changing world, identity, who you are, becomes very important. And with Cardinal Bergoglio as pastor of Buenos Aires in Argentina, and in terms of his messages, he has been very consistent in terms of articulating that Catholic identity, that Christian identity, again coming from the Gospels.
Interesting. You talked about identity. It is a fast-changing world. What some analysts have said, there's a crisis of faith. I mean,
Yeah.
what does the Catholic Church, now he's the head of the Catholic Church, what does it need to address today?
Well, the crisis of the faith has something to do with a lack of kind of foundation. And the foundation really is a familiarity with the Word of God. No? In fact, in the Second Plenary Council of the Philippines, it was mentioned there that like Filipinos, in the Philippine context, like Filipinos are sacramentalized. Many Filipinos are familiar with the sacraments, but
Yes.
not evangelized. Not evangelized. This move to in terms of evangelization is really going back to the sources of our faith. And what are the sources of our faith? The sources of our faith are the Gospels, no? The Word of
Yes,
God,
yes.
and also a clear understanding of how we live out this Word of God today.
Right.
So a familiarity, no,
Right.
with the proclamation of Jesus Christ. And again, with Pope Benedict XVI, he was very strong on this. You know, before he became Pope, maybe he published more than 50 books. But even his writings as Pope, he underlined this particular phrase, no? And I hope I can still remember fully
Yes.
this particular quote from Deus Caritas Est, God is love. And he said, being a Christian is not a result of an ethical choice or an idea, but an encounter with an event, a person, which gives a decisive orientation in one's life. So it is an encounter with an event, an encounter with a person, and this person is the person of Jesus Christ. And this is where identity comes in, because identity is not cannot be invented, no, from
Yes.
ideas or from what you've read, but
Yes.
from an experience.
Yes.
Once you experience something deeply, then you become convinced about this experience, and that shapes your identity as a Christian. So as a Christian, this identity then should be focused or should be founded on a deep experience of Jesus Christ. And how is this experience enhanced? Again, prayer. Uh, uh, Regular attendance of the sacraments, and so on. And the new Pope, when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he emphasized this particular dimension of his ministry.
That's so interesting. When you're talking about, it sounds like you're talking about that leap of faith, right?
Yes.
And yet, for the generation today, they look at the text, the Bible, as something that happened thousands of years ago that
Yes.
seems disconnected. And particularly this church, he's taking over a scandal-ridden, a church that's priests facing pedophilia,
Yes.
a crumbling of the faith also. How do you then get that leap of faith?
Well, the importance of, you know, as I mentioned, in terms of Pope Benedict, is an encounter with an event or a person.
So people
I-
expect the Pope to
Yeah,
be that.
yes,
Catholics.
I believe the community is important. Like the Catholic community or a church community,
Yes.
an experience of real people in a community. Now, Cardinal Bergoglio, when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he mentioned something about the church.
Yes.
And he said the church should not be self-referential. So, I mean, in that statement, this new Pope emphasize the importance of dialogue
Yes.
and of listening as part of an experience. And with so many questions around, it's important that we listen, that
Yes.
we dialogue. Instead of condemning immediately or reacting immediately, then dialogue is not possible.
This Pope also told priests in Argentina to bless the children of unwed mothers. As you said,
Yes.
you mentioned divorce. He didn't seem to discriminate against that, but
Yes.
he still has many of the conservative positions of the church in
Yes.
terms of sexuality, gay
Yes,
marriages.
yes.
Is this enough of a change, do you think, to keep the church connected to the youth today?
Yes, for me, it's important for the church to be clear in its message.
The
and
position,
the
yes.
positions, because not to take a position, not to present a clear image and message of the church, you become you have no power.
Yes.
To be able to be convincing, you have to be very clear in terms of what you are presenting, who you are in this fast changing world.
Yes.
Otherwise,
You're-
there's no point of reference.
Yes, I see
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
It has to take the position and convince others
Yes.
that that's the way.
But the type of convincing is not the type of a kind of a bullying or
Yes.
threatening
From the
attitude.
bully from
but,
the pulpit?
But something like, as I've mentioned, in terms of a dialogue based on respect and reverence, and this was also underlined by Paul, I think, no, John the 23rd and Paul the 6th,
Yes.
the popes who, well, John the 23rd, the Pope who opened the Second Vatican Council, and then Paul the 6th, the popes have kind of really underlined, the importance of dialogue, especially now with the explosion of media. In fact,
Yes.
it's amazing because I was in Rome in 2005, but what I can say is that this particular conclave is the first in history in the context of a social media. It's
is.
amazing
Yeah.
how people just interact with the news and with the candidates of the papacy and their comments. This was not like this in 2005.
It was incredible that
Yeah.
early this morning, 130,000 tweets in the first hours or so
Yeah, yeah.
after the announcement. The Philippines, bring us to the Philippines today, Asia's largest Roman Catholic nation. How is our faith, how are we being shaped by all of this? What changes have you seen?
Well, one of the things that kind of really struck me, the first pope, non-European pope,
Yes.
after 1,300 years, it's a big shift.
Yes.
And it's a very significant choice because in terms of a profile of the Catholic population in the world, 1.2 billion, 2/3 of that come from what we call Southern Hemisphere. That's Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So in a way, this Pope represents the developing world, no, in terms of geography. So in a way, we share in that. No,
Yes.
we are part of that. No, that we have a Pope now coming from this particular region. No,
Yes.
that the 2/3 of the number of Catholics from a developing world, and we have a Pope coming from this region. That's very powerful in a symbolic way.
Let me ask you about the church itself. For the first time in 14 years, the RH law was passed. And some analysts will say that shows the church's power in the Philippines is waning. The Jesuits actually supported this. Do you agree with that?
Well,
or what does this show, actually?
Well, I would like to correct that impression that the Jesuits supported. The official stand of the Jesuits is the official stand of the bishops, and it's been very clear. No,
So
our
it's been
provincial,
individual. Yes,
it's
yes,
the
yes.
provincial came out with a statement. I
Yes.
was there in the rally in EDSA. We are supporting the bishops on this issue. But again, in issues like this, which are very sensitive issues,
Yes.
what is important for the church is to listen again, no? and engage in dialogue, because people have real concerns, have
Yes.
real questions, and it would be good to kind of engage people who carry these issues in a spirit of respect and reverence. I'd like to underline that because even with Pope Benedict XVI,
Yes.
in his dialogue with non-Christians, with Muslims and other
Yes.
groups, you see a Pope who is very, very open and ready to listen, very in a gentle
Yes.
gentle way. So in a way, for us Jesuits, again, I don't like to underline that now we have a Jesuit Pope. Now we are influential. Now we are powerful. No, no, no. I still believe that the primary mission of Jesuits coming from Benedict XVI is to serve the Church. And this was mentioned by Pope Benedict XVI in his formal audience with the Jesuits in 2008 after we elected a general. Pope Benedict XVI said, "The Church needs you." And we respond to that in terms of fidelity.
Yes.
and really supporting the Church in its work of evangelization.
Father Joe, a few questions from social media. This is from @Simone Magsalin. This is about the Jesuits. Isn't it hypocritical of Jesuits here to brag about a Jesuit Pope when they arrogantly descended on the Church's stand on RH? You kind of explained this. What do you make of this?
Well, I'm sorry. We are not bragging now that we have a Jesuit Pope because we're even surprised. Because as I've said, it's part of our formation not to aspire a high ecclesiastical
Correct.
position.
Correct.
So the election of a Jesuit Pope was a surprise for us. But of course, I don't like to kind of underline that Jesuitness of
the
Pope,
Pope.
because the Pope as a universal shepherd is the pastor of the whole Church.
Correct.
It just so happened that he was formed in the Jesuit vocation and formation, but as Pope now, he is the pastor of all Catholics. Of the Catholic Church. So it's not that he is kind of limited now in terms
In
of
one.
in one viewpoint,
Yes.
like as a religious or as a Jesuit. Yes.
Another reaction, this is a great reaction from Marshal Bonifacio @Mark Boni. A Jesuit as Pope is a wonderful thing. Maybe one day an Asian Pope. In terms of how this Pope will deal with the problems the Church is facing, pedophilia, the Vatican, the gossip scandal that came out in the
Yes.
Vatican that
Yes.
Pope Benedict had to deal with. How do you
Yes.
see him dealing with these issues?
I'm sure he will handle these issues clearly. In fact, in the reports given to Pope Benedict, the reports from a commission which kind of address these problems, the reports are reserved for the next Pope to examine. No? So again, when he was in Argentina, he confronted real problems there affecting the local Church of Argentina. Now as Pope, he's expected to address the same concerns affecting the Church.
A lot of questions coming in now from Kai Francisco. He's described as progressive on social issues but rejects liberation theology. Your thoughts on that?
Well, again, liberation theology. Now, liberation theology was a theology followed by many of those in the Church, especially in the 1970s,
Right.
because of the context then.
In
And Latin America,
Yes,
it was
correct.
a context of great structural injustice,
Right.
and of course a lot of challenges. And for many of the religious in Latin America, including Jesuits, the response to the situation was a sincere response to that particular situation. But things have changed now. Things have changed, and in fact, later on, even the Jesuits, we realized that there were some problems in terms of really pushing, a kind of a particular program, a political program,
Right,
which
right.
is very much associated with liberation theology.
Right.
And we kind of realized that, as Jesuits, as religious, or as, workers of the Church, we are not experts